The cage was 3 feet wide. He lived inside it for 4 years. And on the morning they finally opened the door, he did not move, not 1 inch. By the end of this, you will understand exactly what he was doing in those first frozen minutes and why it was not fear, at least not the kind of fear you are picturing. 3 moments changed him, and I want you to watch for all 3 and stay with me until the last one. Because on day 19, he did something so small that the woman who adopted him almost missed it, and she still cannot describe it without stopping halfway through the sentence. The cage, 4 years of the same ceiling. Here is the part most people do not know. Research facilities in a growing number of places are now required by law to offer their animals for adoption when the work is finished, and a quiet network of volunteers exists purely to drive those animals to homes. He came out of that system, gray, 7 years old, ear-tipped with a tattooed number, and completely healthy on paper. But 4 years in a 3-foot enclosure does something specific to a cat, and it is not what people assume. A cat's whole sense of safety is built on vertical space and on the ability to leave. High shelf, top of the wardrobe, back of the sofa, that is not a preference. That is the nervous system's escape route. He had never had one. Every single day of his adult life, whatever came through that door, he had to simply be there for it. So when the door finally stayed open, the open door was not a gift. It was the one thing he had no instructions for. The first hour, the room was too big. She carried the crate into a small back room and opened it exactly the way the rescue told her to. He did not come out for 4 hours. When he finally did, he did not explore. He crossed the floor low and fast and pressed himself into the 6-inch gap behind the washing machine, and that is where he stayed for 2 days. And this is the thing that breaks people, so I want to say it clearly. She thought she had failed him. She sat on that kitchen floor at 2 in the morning, genuinely wondering if she had made his life worse by taking him out of the only place he understood. If you have ever brought home a scared cat and felt that exact sinking feeling, this next part is for you. The box. The smallest kindness in the room. On the 3rd day, she did something that sounds almost too simple to matter. She put a cardboard box on its side in the corner with a towel in it. That is it. Within 20 minutes, he was in it. And this is not a sweet coincidence. It is one of the most reliably measured findings in shelter cat research. A 2014 study by Vinke and colleagues gave newly arrived shelter cats a simple hiding box and tracked their stress against cats without one. The cats with a box recovered dramatically faster. Not because hiding is healthy in itself, but because a cat who can hide is a cat who has finally been handed a choice. Read that again if you need to. The box did not help him because it kept him safe. It helped him because for the first time in 4 years, going in and coming out were both up to him. She started leaving the room after feeding him instead of watching to see if he ate. By the end of that week, he was eating while she was still standing there. If your cat does one small thing you have always quietly wondered about, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And keep watching, because what he did next is the part that made the rescue coordinator ask her to write it down. What he was actually doing. He was not broken. He was working. Here is the reframe that changes this entire story. From the outside, those first 2 weeks looked like a cat who had shut down. From the inside, he was doing an enormous amount of work. Cats map a new territory by scent long before they trust it by sight, pressing their cheeks and chin along edges and corners, laying down their own signature until the room reads as theirs rather than someone else's. She started finding evidence of it in the mornings. A chair leg he had marked, a door frame, the corner of her bed, which he had never once been seen near while she was awake. He was moving through the entire house at night, every night, quietly building something. Kessler and Turner's work in the late 1990s established what confinement actually does to a cat's stress levels, and just as importantly, that recovery is not a switch. It is slow and it is invisible and it is almost always happening earlier than the person can see. He was not refusing his new life. He was surveying it. Day 19. The thing she cannot talk about. She was on the sofa with a book, not looking at him, which by then had become the whole strategy. He came into the room, which he now did most evenings. He sat down about 6 feet away, which was closer than usual, but not remarkable. And then he looked directly at her and slowly closed his eyes, held them shut for a moment, and opened them again. A 2020 study out of Sussex and Portsmouth tested this properly for the first time and found that cats are significantly more likely to slow blink at a person who slow blinks at them and more likely to approach a stranger who does it. It is as close to a deliberate voluntary signal of ease as a cat gives us, not a reflex, not a request for food, a cat choosing to tell a human that nothing here needs guarding right now. He had spent 4 years in a room where nothing was ever his decision. And the first real decision he made, once he finally had them, was to reassure her. The honest truth for the person whose cat is still behind the washing machine. One honest note, because this story could accidentally hurt the wrong person. His timeline was 19 days. Some cats take 4 months. Some cats never become lap cats at all. And that is not a failure, and it is not a lesser version of love. A cat who watches you calmly from the doorway is a cat who has decided you are safe. And that is the entire thing. That is not the consolation prize. And one practical line, because it matters. Hiding while settling into a new home is normal. A cat who suddenly starts hiding after months of being fine is a different situation, and that one is worth a calm vet check to rule out anything medical, not something to panic over. I should also say, plainly, this is one story told from many. The events are drawn from documented laboratory rehoming programs and from the behavior research I have named throughout, shaped into a single cat's 20 days so that you can actually feel what the data describes. The science in it is real. The gray cat is every gray cat who has come out of one of those rooms. Closing. We talk about rescue as though the moment that matters is the door opening. It is not. He was out of the cage on the very first morning, and he was still 4 years away from being free. The moment that mattered came 19 days later, on a sofa, 6 feet apart, when a cat who had never been given a single choice used one of his first ones to close his eyes at a human being. The door was never the problem. The door was just the beginning of him being asked. If this one stayed with you, it genuinely helps you to put honest animal stories in front of people who would rather feel something true than something loud. And if you would rather understand cats than guess at them, that is the whole reason this channel exists. I will see you in the next one.